Good morning, LCC kids. We are getting really excited about VBS. It's going to be splashing your way in about a week. So you've got 1 week before you, and then next week, we're jumping under the sea and following along with the story of Jonah. We have a lot of fun things planned that we'll get to experience together, even while we have to be apart for a little while longer. But we're going to jump in with today's game. We're playing something called Over, Under, Equal. And so you're going to have to figure out, you're going to get some fact, some number, and if the answer that's given, is it a little bit over the correct answer? Is it under what that number should be? Or is it equal? Is it exactly right? So let's go ahead and we're going to look at question number 1. All right, in terms of miles to drive from New York to Los Angeles across the United States, 3,313 miles. Do you think the correct answer is over that? Is it under that? Or is it equal to that? That's a big number right there. I don't know. We're all guessing on this one. Just go ahead and shout it out from home. The answer is under. It's actually 2,792. All right, next question. Number of chapters in the book of Isaiah. Kids, I'm sure each one of you has read through the entire book of Isaiah. I don't know, we got the number 54 here. Do you think it's over that number, under that, or do you think that equals 54? Go ahead and tell us from home. And the answer is 66. It's over the number 54. All right, next question. All right, 1 billion seconds. In case you didn't know what the number 1 billion looks like written out, there it is. 1 billion seconds are equal to how many years? Do the math real fast in your head. Shout out what you think it is. Is that over 5.6 years? Under that or equal to that? And the answer is over. That's actually 31 years of your life are spent in 1 billion seconds. All right, next question. The amount the Wittelsbach diamond sold for in auction, because I'm sure we're all tracking those headlines. $23.4 million. Do you think, I don't know, is it over that, under that? Who really knows? We're all guessing. Could it be equal to that? Let's have the big reveal. Equal. That thing is worth $23.4 million. That's pretty amazing. Next one. The year Abraham Lincoln became president, 1876. Over that, you think it was later or under, a little bit earlier than 1876, or equal to that? And our answer is under. It was actually 1860. We've talked about Abraham Lincoln a few times on these LCC Kids videos. You might remember the throwback to Abe versus Abe when we learned about Abraham in the Bible. All right, I think we have one final question. Number of letters in the traditional Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed. I'm sure we all know that. Do you think it's over the number 20, under that number, or equal to 20 letters? Right, there are 26 letters in the alphabet that we use in English, and the answer is over. There are actually 22 letters in Hebrew. So your minds are now filled with all this essential information. I know you come, and parents especially, you come to these LCC Kids videos because those are the factoids that you want to know about. We're going to learn a story today about a man, a young man, in fact, a young boy who dreamed of being set over all of his brothers, but ends up under them all, in fact, under the earth itself, until then God sets him right where God has planned for him to be. And of course, we are talking about Joseph. The title for today's lesson is Joseph's Dreams and Nightmares. We're doing half of the story of Joseph today. We'll pick up his story next Sunday as well. But for today's lesson, if you're tracking along and you want to use the Gospel Story Bible, we're in stories number 22 and 23 cover this. But first, let's talk about Joseph's dreams. Joseph was a man of dreams, and he dreamed that he would be lifted up from among his brothers, that he would be set over them. In fact, he was somebody who was favored by his father. He had a lot of brothers, right? He was one of 12 sons of Jacob. We've tracked with the story of Jacob. Last week we saw him in a wrestling match with God himself where he gets a new name. He's named Israel. And now we're following along with the story of the people of Israel. And the people of Israel began with these 12 dudes, with the household filled. They had some daughters as well in the mix. But maybe you feel like your house is a little crowded these days. Well, imagine being one of 12. And Joseph was kind of at the bottom of the rung. He was the youngest one. He had 10 above him, and then one below him who would come later on named Benjamin. But he was set apart. He was favored by his father, and his father gave him this really special coat. Joseph got some new clothes, and we got a picture here. You might know it as the coat of many colors. It was a robe of majesty. It was a robe of authority. It was a robe of leadership. And it was Jacob's way of telling his son, I love you, in a special kind of way. Now, that created some jealousy on the part of his brothers, right? We saw back in the story of Cain and Abel, Cain be jealous of his brother Abel, and things turned violent when that happened as well. But here, Joseph is favored by his father, but more than that, he's also favored by his heavenly Father. God himself, through the form of these dreams, tells Joseph, I have significant and amazing plans for you. Joseph has two dreams. In one of the dreams, there are these sheaves of grain, these bundles of grain that are set out, and there are 12 of them, and there's his bundle of grain, and the other 11 ones bow down, lower themselves before it. And Joseph wonders, what does this mean? Does this mean that one day my brothers are going to kneel before me in some way? He had another dream where the stars in the sky and a sun and moon also bowed before him. And Joseph wasn't sure what that meant, and Jacob, his dad, wasn't sure what that meant, but he kept it in his heart. But the brothers also kept it in their heart, and they were angry about this guy, their younger brother, and his dreams and what that meant for them. And we're going to find out what happened next in just a moment. But first, we're going to take a quick break and play a game. This game is called Name That Colorful Candy. And we have Mr. Stephen Mackey back with us in studio, and he's going to go ahead and take it away. Mr. Stephen.
Hello, LCC kids. So in today's game of Name That Colorful Candy, you're going to see a pixelated image, and it's your job as it gets more and more, less and less pixelated, to figure out which candy that is and try to guess before we reveal the answer. So let's take a look at our first image. Can you guys tell what candy that is? I'm not sure I can. Lots of colors going on. All right, as we move forward, any more ideas? Maybe seeing some more shapes starting to develop. What about now? Any guesses? Okay, now that's getting good to see. Gumdrops. If you guessed gumdrops, you have a keen eye. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, y'all guess as quick as you can. As soon as you think you see it, shout it out. This one's hard. I'm not seeing any patterns, really. Any guesses? What about now? And the answer is Gummi Bears. Anyone get Gummi Bears? Anyone get Gummi Bears? Anyone 2 for 2? Let's see the next one. All right. I think they're getting harder. Let's see if you can. Anyone guessing? Okay, I'm starting to see some more shapes. What about now? Then I think y'all can guess now. And the answer is M&Ms. M&Ms. Let's see if someone can go 4 for 4. Can anyone get all 4 right? Let's look at our last one together. Man, these first ones are tough. Can't really see what's going on. All right, now some shapes are starting to form. And let's see. It looks like it's Gummi Worms. And that has been Name That Candy. That colorful candy.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen. Well, in a similar way as the images of the colorful candy over time becomes more and more clear, at first, the colorful dream that Joseph has is anything but clear. It first looks like something of a nightmare. And so that's the second thing we're going to talk about today are Joseph's nightmares. Or Joseph is sent out one day to check on his brothers. They're out hanging out with the sheep. And he comes walking up and they say, hey, here comes that dreamer. And out of the jealousy of their heart, they decide, let's kill him. Let's mess him up. We don't want him in our life anymore. And again, we learned when we talked about Cain and Abel that when we have something called envy inside of us, when we don't like the attention that somebody else is getting, we don't think we've been treated the way that we deserve, that's when we throw a temper tantrum, and sometimes that's when we want to hurt other people. And Joseph's brothers decide that as well. But the oldest one, named Reuben, he says, no, let's not kill him. Hey, that wouldn't really be good for us. Instead, let's throw him in this pit right here. And he was thinking maybe later on I could rescue him. But now Joseph is thrown down into this pit of the earth. It feels like he's hit the lowest low that he ever could. And while Reuben was away, Joseph's brothers took him and they sold him as a slave. And they take him away to Egypt. And at first it looks like, okay, maybe things are turning around for Joseph. He ends up in this guy's house named Potiphar, and he's serving him, and he's doing a really good job. Joseph's abilities to organize and to lead are shining, and Potiphar raises him up. He sets him over everything in house. So Joseph was over his brothers, and then he was under into the earth, and now he is set over Potiphar's house in a place of leadership. It looks like he is wearing that robe of leadership again until in a situation where he is tempted and falsely accused of doing wrong, even though he was innocent. He ends up having to run out of the house and leave that robe behind, and he is thrown in prison for something he didn't do. He is back in the pit, in the middle of a cell, and it looks like he is forgotten by his brothers, forgotten by his father, forgotten by God. And yet he is not. God will fulfill his purposes and plans for Joseph. And we'll find out more about that next week. But God's doing that in our lives as well. And you know how we can have confidence about that? Is that there was another favored son who came, and his robe of majesty was taken off, and he was betrayed by his friends, and he wasn't believed by his brothers, and he was sold for silver, and he was falsely accused, and he was arrested, and he was killed, and he was taken down into the pit of the earth for you and for me. But he would rise again. And of course, we're talking about our Lord Jesus Christ, and not just the story of Joseph, But the gospel of Jesus reminds us that no matter what moment of life we walk through, no matter what feels like a dream come true or just looks like a nightmare, there is a loving God in charge of the universe and over our lives personally, and is working his purposes for good. And we're going to find out next week about how that happened in Joseph's life. Okay, kids, we'll see you next time.